Hello everyone, welcome to Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. Dog meat consumption has long been a contentious issue in South Korea, witnessing a notable decline in recent decades. While some advocates insist that it's important to give individuals the freedom to choose what they eat, South Korea recently decided to root out the age-old practice. The bill banning breeding, slaughter, distribution, and the sale of dogs for consumption will take effect in 2027 after a 3-year grace. The government is facing a fierce backlash from dog meat farmers, though, who are asking for compensation. How do experts see the significance of this bill, and what should be done for the legislation to work properly? For more on this, we welcome Professor Cho Hee-kyung from Hongik University. Professor Cho, welcome.
Hello, good evening.
And we also have Director Borami Seo from the Humane Society International. Good to see you, Director Seo.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, Director, so our first question to you. So the need to root out the practice of dog meat consumption has long been discussed in the country. Could you tell us some of the major events that led South Korea to finally ban the centuries-old practice?
Yes, so while animal groups and individuals have been campaigning to ban dog meat industry for decades, it's actually relatively recent that politicians started to show their support publicly to ban dog meat industry. So, for example, like in 2017, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, the number of politicians started to voice their support for dog meat. And it's 2017 when the biggest dog meat market in Moran officialized its position to shut down its business, followed by in 2018, the biggest dog meat slaughterhouse in Taepyeong decided to shut down its business, and in 2019, the Gupo dog meat market also shut down their business. So it shows that the local authorities started to feel the pressure from the public to end this cruel industry and act on it. So in the meantime, it was actually quite challenging to get the central ministries to take the responsibilities when it comes to dog meat. So Ministry of Food, Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. When it came to dog meat, they left their responsibility to other authorities. But then over the years, with the growing demand and the interest from the public, things have started to shift. So in November 2021, the Agriculture Ministry launched the task force. So it was consisted of dog meat industry people, animal groups, and other governmental representatives to discuss how they can phase out the industry. They had meetings like more than 10 times, but it was difficult to come to the agreement in like some details, like phase out timeline. So it was quite frustrating, but then it was obviously a very important milestone. And then at the beginning of last year, there was some behind-the-scenes work going on at the National Assembly. Some lawmakers started to working on drafting the special act to end dog meat industry. So here we are. That the bill has passed now, and then we are seeing the end of the industry now.
All right, I see. Well, as our directors already pointed out, we had to go through some of the major events and steps. And now the National Assembly finally passed a bill banning dog meat consumption on the 9th. However, the ban has a 3-year grace period, right, Professor Cho? Could you give us some details of the law?
Yes, as you mentioned, this law is actually going to come into effect 3 years from the date of proclamation. And so it will take effect from 2027, as you also mentioned in your introduction. And that's really to give some time for the owners of dog meat farms, the distribution businesses, and dog meat restaurants to essentially switch to a different business, because obviously if it were to be outlawed overnight, actually, I will explain about this outlaw issue shortly, but if they were to be out of their jobs overnight, then obviously their livelihood will be in difficulty. And so this 3-year grace period is essentially designed to provide these people with time to transition into a different industry or different business. But I do question, I understand that there has been a lot of effort put into getting this bill into law and for the National Assembly to actually pass it with bipartisan support. But I do wonder whether this was such an urgent legislative issue because this was a waning industry anyway. I think it would have died a natural death in maybe a few years. I would say most likely within a decade or so. And the really big question is, given all the other pressing legislative issues, did they really have to spend the time and effort in the National Assembly to pass this particular law at this particular time?
All right, I see your point, Professor Cho. Well, we are going to tap on some of the details of the law and the aftermath. But before that, I'd like to ask our Director's Hall about the background of how this law was eventually able to pass in the National Assembly. Director Seo, in a recent survey, over 90% of South Koreans said that they have no intention of eating dog meat in the future. Such apparent disapproval toward the consumption of dog meat, could this have been one of the major reasons behind the National Assembly's decision right now?
Oh yeah, of course. With like a growing number of population living with companion animals in Korea in the past years, the public interest and also government as well to really pay more attention to the animal welfare and then living with the companion animals like dogs and cats. So the public support for banning dog meat has grown alongside a greater understanding that considering dogs as a sentient animal being. And so at the same time, like animal groups like HSI Korea have exposed the like behind the scenes like undeniable cruelty of dog meat industry to other people through media and then some government and politicians, because people actually don't know what's happening at the farm because it's not a place where people come across on a daily basis. So shining a much needed spotlight on the suffering happening in the farm and the industry enabled the Korean public to see for themselves actually how the severe animal cruelty and suffering is happening behind the scenes. So with that, I think it really helped increase the public sentiment that we are living in 21st century. We don't need to commit this kind of cruelty to animals. It's really not necessary.
All right, I understand your point. Well, Professor Cho, now that the bill has passed, the Korean Dog Meat Association is reportedly requesting compensation. How much are they asking for, and is the Ministry of Agriculture capable of handling such a request?
So, according to news reports, the industry, essentially dog meat farm owners, are asking for 2 million won per dog, and they claim that there is a total of 1.5 to 2 million dogs a year that are essentially are traded in the market. So according to the industry, they claim that there are 10,000 dog meat farms, and the market size is about 280 to 500 billion won, and so how they are calculating is that one dog to them is worth 400,000 won, and they want compensation for up to 5 years in the future, although the law is actually going to come into effect in 3 years. And so what they're asking for is per dog 2 million won, and rough calculation basically says that the government would need a budget of some 4 trillion won, that's about $3.2 billion, to compensate these owners. Now, the figures that are quoted by the industry and the statistics that have been provided by the government agency is so vastly different, and there is a big discrepancy. So according to the government, there is currently about 1,150 dog farms, about 1,600 dog restaurants, about 260 distribution businesses, etc. So the site is maybe, at best 1/10 or maybe, 1/5 of what the industry claims, but it's still quite a sizable sum of compensation that the government might have to cough up if they actually, comply or acquiesce to the claims or requests by the restaurant owners and the farm owners. But we have to remember that dog meat business has actually been illegal for some time. It was never allowed to sell dog meat, although it was actually not illegal to have a dog meat farm and raise dogs, but trading in dog meat and selling it in restaurants has actually been illegal. So what these owners are asking for is to be compensated for illegal activity. Now, I would say the Ministry of Agriculture, which is one of the, weaker ministries in the government, probably don't have the manpower or the resources to cope with this. And I think they will have to sit down with the business owners and really have to find a compromise.
Right, I see. Well, actually, another reason why they are asking such compensation is because they need to, switch their industries, their way of living, right? And Director Seo, as far as I know, Humane Society International has experience in successfully closing dog farms and supporting them to switch to another business. So could you share some of the cases, and in what ways should the government help these farm owners to adapt to the new law?
Yeah, so Humane Society International Korea's Models for Change program was launched in 2015, so about 9-10 years ago. So this was launched to work with dog meat farmers who wish to leave the industry to rescue all the dogs from their property and just really walk away from what they were doing, because they were getting either pressure from their family members, or they didn't feel comfortable to tell other people that this is the business that they were running. So there are farmers who wanted to get out of the industry, but they just didn't know how. So we got in touch with the farmers and we had the conversations number of times just to understand each other's positions, and also to make sure that once we agree on terms, we will rescue the dogs from their property, all the dogs, and also to have a promise that they are going to shut down their farm permanently and transition into animal-free livelihood, such as vegetable growings or water delivery or other security jobs. So far, we closed 18 farms and rescued over 2,700 dogs to find their forever homes. So we shared these Models for Change program cases with the government officials and the lawmakers as well. And we also invited them to come and see the operations we are working on to close down the whole property. So that it was to show other people that it is possible to work with the dog meat farmers, although of course it takes time and really needs some effort to understand each other's positions. But by showing the public as well that the dogs typically found in dog meat farms, they are mixed breed like Tosa's, and there used to be a strong perception that dogs found in meat farms are not companion dogs. But then through our Models for Change programs, we showed other people that these dogs are just like the same companion animals, and then they are living with their forever family after the rescue. So we've shared these cases with public and other people, and so it was really to show that it's possible to work, not working against each other.
All right. Well, Director Seo, while you were answering, you already mentioned about dogs that are currently being bred, right? The bill does not address what to do with the dogs after the related businesses are shut down. How should they be managed?
Yeah, so now it's been very challenging to get this bill passed. And then now that the bill has passed, we also have difficult challenges and discussions to have. So in the coming months, the government will have to work on providing detailed plan for the support scheme and process the applications from dog meat farmers or restaurants or traders to get the applications how they want to be supported in this during this phase out period. So in terms of the remaining dogs, the government made it clear that the number of dogs they have at their property does not mean the increase in the support that they are going to get, because it just doesn't make sense to compensate per dog. So as part of that, we are really hoping the government will work with local authorities, shelters, and animal groups to discuss and have some plans in place to rescue as many dogs as possible. And we would like to see, state-supported rescue component during this phase-out program.
All right. Well, as our directors already pointed out, it seems there are challenges ahead, though the new bill has passed. So, Professor Cho, what further laws or policies should be in place in order to make this bill work properly?
Well, in addition to the detailed plan on how to essentially rehome these dogs remaining on dog meat farms and budget to do this, there is still remains in our civil code, our basic law that treats dogs and other animals as mere chattels. So these are things, not living beings that actually have a life. And so I would say in terms of law reform, that's one of the critical and main reform that we actually need to make. Our civil law system, as you know, is based on the German legal system, and Germany has already amended their civil code to essentially create a third class of beings that include animals, that so that they are no longer treated as mere things. But apart from that, I think actually passing a law to provide a budget to help these industry-associated people and to rescue these dogs is really critical in order for this new ban on dog meat consumption to actually work effectively, because practically speaking, without that, most of these dogs that remain on farms are likely to be euthanized. We can't even help all the dogs that are at the moment in shelters around the country. And given that there is something like 113,000 abandoned animals each year, and I'm talking about companion animals, mostly cats and dogs. Actually, 7 out of 10 of such abandoned animals are dogs. So when we don't have the will or the capacity to rescue those animals, I think there is worse fate for these dogs on dog meat farms.
All right, I see your point. Now, up until now, our focus was on dog meat consumption, but Director Seo, aside from that, I hear you have been trying to pass bills promoting the use of scientific methods to replace animal testing. What alternatives could there be?
Yes, it might sound a bit quite foreign to many people, but there are dogs, cats, monkeys, rabbits, rodents used for scientific testing, but there are scientific methodologies available, such as using human-derived cell-based models or 3D models that mimic human organs called organ-on-a-chip or organoid. So like in these days, like there are so many new technologies emerging that can predict human responses better than relying on animal models. So it's actually widely recognized by governments governments in other countries like US or EU to invest more research and development funding into approaches that can closely represent human responses and moving away from animal testing. So we've been working on establishing a new law in Korea that can really support these efforts in harmonization with like many multiple authorities who are involved in this area to develop and disseminate alternatives to animal testing. So it passed the Health and Welfare Committee last December, and we hope to see it progressing to become a law in the near future.
All right, it's something definitely we need to think about. Now, Professor Cho, before we wrap up the show, I'd like to ask you this last question. There are still many other cases and areas where the rights of animals are violated. In what ways could this ban on dog meat consumption lead to improved animal rights and welfare?
Well, I hope that this will lead on to a ban on puppy farms and kitten farms. We ban dog meat consumption and dog meat farms on humanitarian grounds or humane grounds, but there are actually more inhumane practices that are going on daily on these puppy mills where bitches are essentially made to be production machines for little puppies that are sold, again, like chattels in shops that people go past and we say, oh, they look cute, and we just buy them like mere things, and then they get abandoned. And so I think the really pressing issue is to ensure that these practices are no longer continued. Puppy mills are banned, and dogs are actually produced and born in humane conditions with, mother dog and father dog and looked after properly.
All right, well, I cannot agree more. Now, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Director Seo and Professor Cho, for your time and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.